Fab. So, hi, Anne-Marie. Thank you so much for joining us on this interview to talk about your careers, present and past.
No problem at all.
And I'm sure everyone at Chertsey can't wait to hear about it. So, my first question to you was, what was your job role?
Right, so my first job then, that was using my languages. So I just graduated. I'd done a master's in translation, but I wanted to work, and it was actually for Michelin Tires, and that was based in Manchester. And I was working in their accounts payable department, and it was wasn't the most glamorous of jobs. It was processing invoices. And a lot of my colleagues have been brought over from France. So Clermont-Ferrand, right in the centre of France, is where Michelin's head office is. And also, for those of your pupils in the know, Michelin have also got a factory in Stoke-on-Trent. So there's quite a lot of people who had been brought over. Michelin were really passionate about languages. They were paying for people to learn other languages and things like that. I was on the phone to suppliers. I was on the phone to buyers within Michelin, and yeah, it was a real baptism of fire. So I'd done my year abroad. And that really, reassures you that, that you can do this. But business French was unlike anything else I'd ever had, and I got there in the end. It was hard, but when the phone rang, you just answered it and you just gave it your best. So lots of native speakers around to help. I did that for about a year, and that was using French predominantly. And then I got a job interview at Kellogg's, which was also based in Manchester, so the cereal manufacturer, and that was for a job using German. But this was credit control now, so it was slightly different. It was me phoning up customers and asking them about paying their invoices. So we worked in what we called a service centre, the EFSC, and there we managed the money or the credit control for the UK market, the Irish market, the Nordics, Spain, France, Belgium, and the Netherlands. And then as I was there, we incorporated Italy as well. So credit control is a bit different. You kind of have more power in the relationship, if you like, because you can stop supplying them. Not that you ever do that very often. And when they did pay, it was making sure you had a copy of the remittance, if they made any deductions, if you needed debit notes. And on a more day-to-day task was we had to check any orders that were placed, if they were on hold. Was it because they had an overdue invoice? Was it because of queries? So in any day, you could end up speaking to remote account managers who were in Austria, or you could be speaking to the finance director who needed to know what was somebody paying us, why weren't they, what could we do to help. And those really were my two main jobs using languages.
Oh, fab. They sound so interesting. So it's not something I think we'd have ever thought about really before, and all the other little aspects that are behind all these big companies. That is super interesting. And obviously now you're a teacher.
Yes.
I think one of the best jobs being a language teacher, especially.
Obviously, yeah.
And I was going to say, so what skills were required in your job? You touched upon, obviously, you needed your languages. You needed.
Absolutely. You know what? The languages is, I think, unfortunately, the British do have quite a poor reputation for being quite lazy language learners. And I think some of the people that I'm still friends with now, so this was, gosh, easily about 15 years ago, was because, one of my closest friends, she was literally transplanted from France to the UK because her husband was also working for Michelin, and she really didn't speak much English at all. And it was just perseverance. It was, I know French isn't my first language, and it was, it wasn't enough just to speak the language. You've got to have a good telephone manner. You've got to be able to, to send professional emails. With the finance aspect, we were using Oracle when I worked for Michelin, and then we were using SAP at Kellogg. So a knowledge of these financial systems as well. I mean, they're quite user friendly, and yeah, it's a lot of my friends actually went on to study accountancy qualifications. They were actually sponsored by the companies, and there were some amazing trips that I was able to go on. But yeah, it's perseverance, it's an eye for detail, it's asking for help if you need it, all of these things that we try and encourage our learners to be, and be confident and stand your ground sometimes as well. It was, you can't just do something because you've got an angry person on the end of the phone shouting at you that you need to do something right away. But it is so much more than just speaking a language. It opened the doorway. I mean, I got to go on an amazing trip to Denmark, which was absolutely brilliant. I did a few day trips to Ireland. That made me feel, quite glamorous until you realise that you're up at 6 and you're getting home at midnight, and it's it's not as glamorous as it sounds. But I stayed in some beautiful hotels, which was really nice. But yeah, languages open the door, but then it's the other soft skills that you get, like the telephone manner. I mean, that's a real, nobody wanted to answer the phone. They're all terrified that who might it be, what language might they be shouting at you in. But just a deep breath, and you grew more confident, and it was a part of the job. It was and the more you do it, usually you get, like with our listening tasks, they hate it, they roll their eyes, it's like, oh miss, but they're speaking so fast. And then when they're giving things like invoice numbers or telephone numbers, and you'd be like, I'm really sorry, could you just say that again? Un petit peu lentement, s'il vous plaît. And then when they were giving out email addresses and they'd announce these names, and you'd be like, so I've always got, even now to this day, don't laugh too much, but I've got my phonetic alphabets in here, because sometimes with my French and my German and my English, I'm just like, do I mean E or do I mean I? But yeah, it does help. And, there's some things that you just never, I can do numbers really quickly now in French, and playing lotto with the kids is obviously a good way to practice that. But yeah, they were definitely some of the skills that I needed every day.
That is really good, talking about the soft skills as well, and how you're talking about we have other aspects. It's not just the languages you need the business aspects there as well.
Yes.
So I think that was a really, really good sort of broad range of skills that we need.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I wasn't qualified. I wasn't an accountant, but certainly when I did credit control, Kellogg's paid for me to do a professional qualification in that, which was brilliant. And it was, I think, as long as I stayed after I finished the qualification, I had to work with them for maybe 2 more years, possibly 18 months, a bit of a golden handshake. And then after that, you were free to go and take your qualification and try your luck elsewhere. But I mean, working for Kellogg's really was. That was massive multinational company. It's right next to Old Trafford Cricket Ground and the football stadium. It was like a professional, massive building. It had a really posh atrium. We had, there was a staff shop. That, the canteen was practically 1 floor. And you really did feel like I'm actually making a difference in this especially because you were getting the money in. Everyone had time for me because they knew that, if they weren't paying their bills, then they wouldn't get their cornflakes. So yeah,
that's it. No, that's great. And my next question would be to you: where have your languages taken you? So obviously, you said you had some amazing jobs from it, and you're teaching now. But where else has they taken you?
Well, so if I go back to the beginning, so obviously I did GCSEs, then I did A levels. I went to Bangor University in North Wales. I did my year abroad halfway between. I did Brittany for 6 months and then Tübingen for 6 months. I did a master's in translation, and that took me on an amazing weekend to Brussels, where we got to have a look around the translation department. It's made me a whole lot of friends that perhaps I wouldn't have had before. I mean, I remember meeting one girl on my first day in France on good old Erasmus, and that was just absolutely amazing. We're still friends now, and that is, gosh, when did I go to France? I think I turned 21 when I was there, so possibly 2002. So, we are talking a good number of years now. Just the friendships and the doors it's open. And even now, on occasion, I get the odd phone call from a recruiter wanting to know, am I looking for, a languages position in finance and things like that. It really is. It's so useful. And especially in the school that I teach in now, we've got a really popular sixth form where languages are really popular. And we're thinking, if you want to study law, great, but carry on with your German, with your Russian, your Spanish, your Latin, your French, because it will just open so many more doors for you.
100%. I completely agree. I've done my year abroad, and I've been to France, I've been to Austria. I absolutely loved it, and I know that is one of the best parts, doing your
Yeah,
Erasmus
it
year.
really is. Yeah, it's the best part.
And my next question to you, so if you could give your year nine self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Um, it would be, you know what, keep an open mind because I wanted to learn Spanish and I just couldn't quite commit to it when I started doing my A levels. They offered a 1 year GCSE followed by, and I just thought it would be too much. But I wish I'd persevered with that. I wish I just kept my options open a little bit more. I was really lucky that I could do 2 languages to GCSE. And I suppose it was, don't be put off. I mean, the kids are astounded that I got an A in French, but I didn't get an A in German, and I didn't get A's in my A levels. I got B's. Yeah, B in French, B in German, and a C in English literature. But I applied myself. I worked hard. I didn't give up. And I think sometimes with German grammar, people they get really scared. And I remember when I was at uni, clutching my copy of Hammer Grammar that I've probably still got on my parents' house somewhere, and think, oh God, I'm never going to be able to do this. And it's just keep the faith. When you go to France, you go to Germany, and you sort out your mobile phone, you sort out your accommodation, you book a taxi, and it turns up. You manage to return something. All of these things that you just think are so far removed. I think I would just say, just keep the faith, because you can do it, and it will be hard. You will get things wrong. The classic of asking for a hot chocolate with teeth instead of cream in Germany, things like that. Zana, Zena, but they know what you mean, and just be unfailingly polite to every foreign person that you meet. Use your pleases, use your thank yous. You will win them over, because they might struggle at first, but they will find it utterly charming that you are persevering. And other ways they might not.
Yeah, that has been some fantastic advice, and it's been so interesting to hear about your job. Thank you so much, Anne-Marie, for joining us for this interview.
You're more than welcome.
I'm sure everyone at Chess is going to be super interested with what you've experienced and what you're still experiencing today.
Absolutely, you're more than welcome. Thank you ever so much.
Thank you so much.